What were you doing when you had that mask on, bro?
Alright. All in favor? You have nothing right on your paper.
I got moving back. You know, it's a Monday.
Don't move uncomfortable.
Alright, but again, we're starting a new sheet of bell work. Today is Monday the 15th.
What?
It's like a novel. Yo.
Damn.
That's your hot head.
Put your teeth in the mask on? What you're doing?
Bro, I told you to change masks, man.
Oh, we redecorated.
Hey, he has a whole entire generation in there.
No, it's just
The
paper.
whole generation.
That's the style.
Oh, damn, bro.
It's wrapping paper, isn't it? Huh? Well, that was the one that needed to be redone.
Thanksgiving, bro.
No, next week's on Monday.
Yeah, the week of food, 5 days. So 5.
When's the break? 24?
Alright, again, guys and ladies, we should be focusing on our bell work. We shouldn't be talking. We got all lunch today. Yes, great.
When is the break?
I will go over everything with you guys that's coming out the next 2 weeks after bell work.
Mosi.
History doesn't really get to go on many field trips. And usually if we do, they usually take us to like the Holocaust Museum, or usually a museum. The Holocaust one is a pretty good one.
3 times. So instead of yours, and I was doing a bell.
I was lucky enough to talk to the actual person on the concentration camps.
Someone give me the answer. Third
The tattoo.
I have it now.
No, so
I'll send it to you on Snapchat.
messed up stuff. Alright, we're gonna go over this in the next 3 minutes, guys. No, it's not hard. It's 3 questions, so it's not that bad. And the 3 questions don't even have right or wrong answers. It's your opinion. So long as you can justify like what your answer is. Because you tell me the main idea or what's happening in the picture is the clowns are riding around on unicycles. I'm gonna be a little concerned. I'm gonna ask them to check your eyesight again.
Why? I think that's right.
They kind of look like clowns.
Alright, it's about 2 more minutes, guys and ladies. We'll go ahead and go over this.
Mister? Can I go to the bathroom after bell work?
What? Just go to the restaurant? Alright, yeah. Here's that. About 1 more minute, guys and ladies. Up in chamber, make sure your mask is up for me.
Well, I had it yesterday, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I already did that.
Are you talking about the? So yeah, it looks familiar because this was one of the cartoons included on that activity that we did. I think not last Friday, but the Friday before. All right, guys, and ladies, let's go ahead and go over this really fast. So we have a political cartoon, and like I just said, we may have seen this before 2 Fridays ago when we had that political cartoon activity and we had to kind of analyze what's going on. So it might be familiar to some of you. But let's look at number 1. It's going to ask us what's happening in the political cartoon. So what's going on? Miss Sparrow?
Threatening and defending each
They're threatening and defending each other. All right. Who are the people in the? Well, sir, I heard Serbia. Serbia is one of them. Which one is Serbia? Who can tell me? Ola? The last one? The first one. Okay, so the first one is Serbia. Okay. The second guy, who do we think is that?
Austria-Hungary.
Austria-Hungary. And then who is the third guy? Russia. Germany's the fourth. Who's the fifth? It's France. I heard France up front. And the last guy is? It's British. Okay, the reason we know he's British is because he's got a top hat.
And he said chaps.
And he says chaps. Okay, it's a typical British thing to do. Alright, so we have all these countries are fighting and defending each other. Or they're threatening to beat each other up. Let's look at number 2 then. Number 2 is kind of in a different light. Okay? So America gets involved in World War I in 1917. The war's already been going on for 3 years. This question is going to ask us, what would be different if the United States got involved right after the assassination of Franz Ferdinand? So like, as soon as the war breaks out, America's in it. How might World War I have been different? Or would it have been different at all?
I think.
Yeah, Mahmoud.
I think Germany would lose the war. Russian would more power against.
Okay, so you think Germany's going to lose quicker or more quickly because America's getting involved sooner? Okay?
Oh, sooner. Oh, they would have a battle.
So you're saying they wouldn't have the advantage of joining in 3 years after? Or with all the weak countries?
They would have done that. United States was already here.
Okay, so they wouldn't have that advantage at the beginning. Because again, this is that hypothetical if America gets involved first. Okay? So we have, they wouldn't have the advantage they did when they initially joined in. We also have that Germany's going to lose faster because there's more people against them. Any other ideas? Or would the war be the same? More men might die. Okay, certainly. If you have more people outright at the beginning, Mahmoud?
And the U.S. might not be prepared to fight right after the war.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So on, was it Thursday? We talked about the U.S. involvement in the war and how we had to prepare. Okay, when the war first breaks out for the U.S., we have a very, very small, unprepared army. Okay, take that back 3 years, it's probably even worse for us. So if we get involved right at the beginning, are we really going to be able to help all that much if we have like no army? Probably not. Okay, so you might want to consider that as well. So let's look at number 3 then. All right. Do you think that the alliance system is a good thing, or is it more divisive and ultimately leads to wars? Who can tell me what the alliance system is?
When you be like teammate with someone else, like a country being friends with someone else.
Yeah, so these countries are allies
So like
with
they
each other.
have-
They're on the
they
same
have-
team, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Murray's been in this assessment. Oh. Okay, no problem. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. All right, so an alliance system is when all these countries are in an alliance or they're teamed up together. Okay? They're not fighting each other. Or they're kind of agreeing that if you do get into a fight, we've got your back.
It is a good thing.
All right, so with that said, is it a good thing or is it more
No.
divisive because it's going to end up in war?
Yeah.
So Abe, you think it's going to end up in
Gonna
war?
war, yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because other countries are gonna be like, why are they being teammates? Why are they being agents? So they can defend themselves with something. So it's good.
That's
Okay, so other countries who aren't in the alliance, or are you trying to say other countries who aren't in the alliance are going to look at those who are in alliance
Yeah,
and say, hey, what's going on? What are you preparing for?
exactly.
Okay, that might be one point of looking at, Zoro.
Other than the war, it's a really good thing, because like, if you have a problem, you know that a country has your back. And during war, eventually, they have your back too.
Okay, so outside of war, which is bad, you know that other countries have your back on these things. So if you do go to war, you can kind of count on others to help you out if you need it. Ali, you want to add?
It's not really a good thing because if two countries are in conflict with each other, they could bring others in that don't want to be in the war.
Excellent. So Ali said it could be bad because if just two countries are fighting, they could potentially bring more countries into the fight, making the fight much larger. And where do we see that happen?
World War I.
In World War I. So this is exactly what happens in World War I. Amna?
I think the alliance system is so decisive and it will always lead to war because people can easily break another person's trust.
Yes.
Themselves.
Okay, so breaking people's trust to suit themselves. We see that with Italy. Italy, even though they're a part of an alliance, the Central Powers, they don't help. And then halfway through the war, they say, we don't want to be the losing team. So Britain and France, I'm going to be on your side now. Okay? So the alliance system is pretty divisive that way. I mean, can you really trust the person you're teamed up with, right? All right, good. So let's go ahead and put these into two different piles. Who wants to volunteer to flip it for me really fast? Kareem? All right, Kareem, make sure they're in two separate piles. So next things next. A quick summary of our week for you guys. So outside of the activity we're going to do today, which I'll explain in a little bit, here's what our week's going to look like. So tomorrow we're going to cover the section 4 of chapter 11. It's going to primarily be what the treaties or how the war ended, how we treat Germany. We're going to give you guys your study guide. We'll give you time in class to work on that. Also, you'll have time in class to finish up your section notes that we handed out on Friday. Again, those are sections 2, 3, and 4.
Wait, when you're checking them today?
I'm not going to check them. I'm not checking certain.
Yeah, Habib.
It should be done, right?
Yes,
So if I do ask right now, if I change my mind and say I want to check it,
Yeah.
I did it.
Okay,
How
okay.
can it be done?
Anyways, that's tomorrow. Wednesday is you're gonna have your study guide already. So Wednesday's gonna be kind of like a study day for you. We're gonna go over the different documents on your test. We're gonna make your test answer sheets. Remember, like we always do. Thursday this week is your test on chapter 11.
Oh, no.
Okay, so it's coming up pretty quick. But again, we're gonna have a lot of time to study and work on it in class. If you have any questions, you should be asking us.
Another test on physics?
The test corrections for what test? Chapter 10? Yes, chapter 10. Mr. Murray and I think we're going to have it on Wednesday. So tomorrow we might have a sign up.
What is the next one?
The next test is going to be chapter 11, which is going to be Thursday.
This Thursday?
This Thursday. So it's coming up quick, but again, guys, we're going to have a study guide for you. You're going to have a lot of time in class to work on this with us. All right? With that being said, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to read a little bit more about Wilson and the 14 points, which is one of our vocab terms. All right? And it's going to be talked about more in depth tomorrow when we actually go over how the war ends. Okay? But first things first, we're going to watch a quick video giving us some background information on what the 14 points were. But while we're watching the video, we should consider this. While we're watching the video, we should ask ourselves, okay, what's it important to consider when you're making an agreement with somebody? Okay? I guess a better way to rephrase it might be, if you guys are, let's say a group of you guys are planning to make a party. Okay? How are you going to distribute the work or the planning? You know, how is it fair to have one person do all the work? You can apply it to schoolwork projects too. Okay, Okay, how do you guys plan out who's going to do what in the project? All right, so think about that. What's important to consider when making an agreement or giving responsibilities to somebody? Okay, Ollie, if you want to get the lights on really fast. So let's pay attention to the video. After this, we'll go ahead and grab our Chromebooks and we'll get started on the activity.
Oh, online?
Yeah, the article we have to read, we're gonna read an article, is online. The packet or worksheet is gonna be paper. All right?
The 14 points.
Frozen.
On January 8th, 1918, President Woodrow Wilson delivered his famous 14-point speech, where he outlined a plan to end World War I and secure world peace. When the war broke out in 1914, Wilson adopted a policy of neutrality, with no intention of involving the U.S. in a foreign war. But the U.S. couldn't remain isolated for long. In January 1917, British intelligence intercepted and decoded a message, known as the Zimmermann telegram, in which Germany asked Mexico to ally with them against the United States. Then, on February 1st of the same year, Germany announced unrestricted submarine warfare and started sinking merchant and passenger ships with U.S. citizens on board, something they had agreed not to do after sinking the Lusitania in 1915. The Lusitania, a British ocean liner, was torpedoed without warning, leading to the deaths of over 1,100 people, including 128 Americans. This was the final straw. On April 2nd, 1917, President Woodrow Wilson went before a joint session of Congress to request a declaration of war against Germany. Just 2 days later, on April 4th, Congress declared war. The war was brutal and expensive. In a little under 2 years of fighting, the U.S. had spent $32 billion and lost over 116,000 men. Wilson wanted the war to end, but when announcing his 14 points in January of 1918, Wilson didn't just want to end the war to protect America, he hoped to prevent wars from ever happening again. So together with his advisor and friend, Colonel Edward M. House, President Wilson organized a group of 150 political and social scientists to study Allied and American policy all over the globe, collecting nearly 2,000 reports and 1,200 maps. This would inform the idealistic 14 points, which would address causes of the World War and also propose solutions to ensure world peace in the future through policy and negotiations. 8 of the 14 points were aimed at resolving specific territorial issues among the countries involved in combat, and securing borders and statehood for Italy, the Turkish part of the Ottoman Empire, Poland, and Austria-Hungary. 5 points covered general principles for a peaceful world: open treaties and agreements, freedom of the seas, free trade, reduction of armaments, and adjustment of colonial claims to land. These were all based on the principles of self-determination, the idea that nations should have the right to govern themselves without interference from other countries. The 14th and most influential point proposed that countries form an alliance to guarantee the political independence and territorial integrity of great and small states alike. The 14-point speech reflected a tradition of diplomatic idealism that would come to define Wilson's presidency. But how did that idealism translate into action? Well, most of Wilson's points were never fully realized. But one point in particular would have a big impact on the Treaty of Versailles and the end of World War I. When the Allies met in Versailles to create a treaty to end the war, they were less interested in Wilson's idealistic vision and more interested in regaining what they had lost and punishing Germany. To Wilson's disappointment, the points were barely integrated, and only to the benefit of the Allies. Most of them weren't actually adopted or honored by anyone after the treaty was signed. However, the 14th point was incorporated: the creation of a world organization providing collective security. This would later be known as the League of Nations. Ironically, despite a campaign from Wilson, the U.S. never actually joined the League of Nations. and Wilson foreshadowed that without American membership in the League, there would be another world war within a generation. Sure enough, World War II would break out just 20 years later.
All right, so really fast, who can tell me what the 14 points were? Generally, with raising their hand.
Only one.
Ollie, you want to grab the last one?
Oh man, I lost one. It looked like I'm nurse.
Why they should go to war or why they should stop war, right? So it's Wilson's proposals, there's 14 of them, kind of outlining how we should conduct ourselves so that we don't have another war. Okay? What's the League of Nations? Because it talks about that in there too. The League of Nations is what?
So league to maintain our peace.
So it's a group of all the countries, it's a group to maintain world peace. Okay? Ultimately, who does not join? America. So it's our idea, and we don't even bother to get involved with it. Okay, so it's kind of like those projects you might start and then not finish, you know? The U.S. starts this good idea of, hey, maybe we should join this nation, or this League of Nations, to really enforce some things, but the American public doesn't want to get involved. We think that it's going to drag us into another world war. And we don't get involved, and then we end up getting involved in a world war again anyways. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. Before lunch, I'll go ahead and pass this out, but we have a small worksheet we're going to do today. In addition to the video we just watched, we're going to look at an article on Schoology. And it's the same thing. It's going to cover about the 14 points, what each one was, and then it's going to talk about the Treaty of Versailles and what that one in opposition. Okay, so you're going to kind of compare and contrast the two. Okay, so I'll really fast read the directions for you guys as we do this. But when we come back from lunch, we're going to grab our Chromebooks. We're going to go to Schoology. We're going to go to this week's assignment folder. It's the only link in here because it's the first assignment. And then we'll go to this second link right here. This first one is the video. This second one is the article we want to look at. All right? So basically what we're going to be doing is the first question is going to ask us, we want to describe why did Wilson want the 14 points kind of, adopted by all these countries? What was his goal? What was his motivation for wanting to put forth these ideas? World peace, okay. Number 2 is going to ask us, this is kind of confusing, so again, I'll probably end up explaining it again when we get back from lunch, but it's going to want us to pick out 3 specific points from the 14 points and why they were important to maintaining freedom in the world. Okay, so you're going to pick 3 of them and then tell us why you think they're so important. Then it's going to ask us to explain, they're going to group the 14 points into 3 groups. It's going to ask us what group is the most important to maintaining world peace and why. Okay, the last one is one of the options, so you might want to consider that. And then on the back, it's going to ask us 4 questions that are very simple. It's going to ask, what ways did the 14 points differ from the Treaty of Versailles? So what were the differences between the two? Why was President Wilson disappointed in what the Treaty of Versailles wanted? Okay? Then it's going to ask us, well, how did the other nations, the Allied nations, justify kind of punishing Germany, putting all the blame on Germany? And then the last question is going to ask us, after reading the article of both documents, the Treaty of Versailles and the 14 points, if you were a delegate, what side would you choose? Would you choose the route of punishing Germany, or would you kind of follow Wilson's way and want more peace and fairness in the adjustment of this treaty? All right. So I'll hand this out where you can go ahead and grab your Chromebooks before we go to lunch. So feel free to grab your Chromebooks and get started on this before we leave. I'll say this again when we come back from lunch, but if you finish this, which most people have, you can feel free to work on your section notes.
What are the section notes?
The section notes are going to be collected the day after the test, which is going to be on Friday.
When's the test?
The test is on Thursday. Tomorrow we're going to do your study guide. Wednesday all day we're going to work.
So for the last test we took, when's
The test corrections are, I think Mr. Murray and I said they're going to be on Wednesday. We're going to have a sign up tomorrow.
What'd you get on the test?
Good.
You know what I got?
What's up? Yeah. Also, a reminder, this week is also parent-teacher conferences. Tuesday and Thursday, 3:30 to 6:30. So if your parents want to come talk to us, feel free.
Literally.
What's up?
You know the assignment the World War I cartoon?
Yes.
You know who I want to bring to my parent-teacher conferences? Just because of all.
Yeah,
I
so
want to bring all the teachers.
the PowerPoint
See when we're taking the
has
test?
all the I've seen a whole bunch like
It's another pack.
the document. It's a bunch of boxes. Okay, it should say like tier 1.
A lot.
Essentially, all those questions are going to be
Based off one?
they're going to be based off the one little cartoon you choose. And if there's like, I know one of the questions says where's some important numbers in data. If in your cartoon there is one is the number of the date, just write those numbers. Yeah, Dave, what's up?
What section is this?
So, what did I just say that we're getting the answers from? It's on the board right now. It's on an article. So you need your Chromebook. You're going to have to go to Schoology and you're going to have to pull up the article. You're going to read the article and that's where your answers are. Alright, we should be on our phone. You see your project? You see.
Left one, I don't like it.
Should be asleep.
We all
Like, show that. Yo, that's, what is it? Go ahead. I'll send this to you. Huh? Sleeping out. I'll send it to you, bro. You think? Yeah, that's it.
No, the bell hasn't rung.
down the stairs.
Yeah, I haven't seen exactly.
Yeah, I asked you.
Alright, someone already left their worksheet up at the front.
That was correct.
Alright, you guys can go to lunch. Someone's without a worksheet, so they have a hard time completing the assignment.
Sorry, you're going to lunch?
Yo, Justin. Yo, Justin.
You twat!
Here, look.
Yeah.
Grab me.
Yo, Justin.
And a drink. What did I add? Hot cheese, cookies, and a drink. Tell Amira. Did you work here? Amira. President, her hot Cheetos.
Yeah, it came in later.
Yeah. And how much? Lay after 5?
Tam Murphy just started.
Okay, thank you. Mister, she called for me, right?
Yeah, she did.
I'm present.
Yep, I know.
Amira, خدتيها للبيزات؟ Okay, hot Cheetos.
It's okay.
Oh.
Alright, Muscle, go ahead and get to your seat. You see? Your seat?
You don't even try cleaning it.
Hey, this is how it seems.
Where were you?
You got come on your hands.
Alright.
Hey. Yo, Justin.
So I handed that to you when you were sleeping. That's what we're doing today.
What did we say about bringing food and drinks to this class?
You were asleep. It's really important.
I feel like
I understand.
Back. Hey, I ate it.
Ate it this week,
You can just do it tomorrow.
شوية حليب. Take right.
All right, guys and ladies. All right, Aya, Mira. All right, so what we're working on right now, guys and ladies, again, we're bringing it back from lunch. We're going to go on to Schoology. Again, we're going to this week's folder. And we're going to click on the only link that is in there, which is the 14 points assignment, which is in a packet or a worksheet in front of you guys. All right. You're going to read the article, Wilson's 14 Points, Plan for Peace. In that article, that's where you're going to find all the information you need for this worksheet. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll try to help you the best I can. If you finish your assignment, feel free to work on your guided notes. Yes, I am. I would like it by the end of the class. Most people can finish it. Again, if you don't finish it in class, it's not the end of the world. Tomorrow you may have some time to work on it, but tomorrow you're also getting notes and a study guide. So you should probably want to make sure it's done today. The notes? No, the notes are being collected on Friday. Tomorrow we're going to do a presentation sometime in class, and then the other half of that we're going to do a study guide. Let's not move our tables. We're not moving our seats.
Okay, but our elbow buddy.
Elbow buddy.
Just like this. No, it's always been like that.
Why do you need to turn around?
He's smart.
You're smart too. Oh, he's smart.
I know, I'm smart too.
That was a really delayed response.
You should see what I do with standing up. Hilarious. I'm not standing up.
Sorry, you're going to start getting back all your comments.
What I do with standing up is hilarious. Oh!
Yeah, Mr. Murray told me that on your that it makes me sad.
No!
Yeah.
I do not. Alright, also guys, we have a lot of people who are not wearing their masks correctly, especially one who has it over his eyes and getting a picture taken of him.
I wonder how good that be. Mister, I don't even got a phone. We gotta get that quick pic, you know what I mean?
It's true.
For the gram.
We also shouldn't have our AirPods.
I'm not doing anything, bro. Mister, we have to get that quick pic for the gram.
Oh, maybe, man.
Okay, so they're AirPods, right? Raj and Edmund.
Mister, we have to get that quick pic for the gram.
If you post that to Instagram, I feel sorry for you.
No, Mr. Hogan.
They got it out with a clean pic?
No. I'd be embarrassed if I put that on my Instagram.
Mister, you see how he looks? He looks so delectable. I don't know, it was me doing this. Mister, see how he looks? It was just me taking a pic like this. He looks delectable, he looks so good.
So funny, that's why you're after heritage dance.
He looks magnificent.
Alright guys, ladies, again, you have the rest of the hour to do this. Please make use of your time. Alright, because when it comes down to the end of the unit and people are going to say, hey, I'm missing this assignment, probably because we're not working on it. We're going back.
I need to bring on a Bible.
What's the question? What's the question?
Don't make me call.
Hey, Barbara!
No.
Hey man, we gotta focus on getting back to class soon.
Excuse me, sir.
With that, follow me.
You're gonna right of potential impact. So why do you think that evacuation of all Russian territory helps maintain peace?
I know exactly what.
We are watching right now. Alright, so, well, why do you think? Why do you think he wanted 14 points? It says, the first thing they say, why, and what his main motivation was for the 14 points. You're kind of on the right track. People were dying. All these. Okay, so it'd be more diplomatic.
What?
Gonna go on your world peace. There we go. He wants to prevent other wars from happening. He wants the First World War to be the first and last World War. Also, it does not happen.
You just come back and said you're trying to work. Why? What do you think I said?
It was your choice, not mine.
I'm doing my work.
Honestly, that's not right for being in class. No, that's not.
Why are you saying that?
You know, no, I said if you eat.
Describe what you believe. President Wilson.
Same thing. Even if you say it in English, doesn't make it okay.
But it makes like it's less bad in English. Eat shit.
Well, why are you trying to say bad things?
Don't say that.
You know, someone says that we're strict.
That triggers me strong.
You know, some students in here, their parents don't like them to hear cussing words, right?
Yeah.
There's
Like,
evidence.
Very badly.
I
do not want to hear any single word.
Alright, guys. Let's not talk across the classroom. It doesn't matter who said what. Just don't continue it.
No. Why in everything I love that was accident? I swear to God that was accident.
Mister, you know what that means?
Yeah.
You know what vintage means?
Huh?
Vintage pen.
I do.
What does it mean? Well, Mr. If you do that, I'll put away my chips.
Calvin's dog.
That's
his dog.
That's a pretty bad insult in Arabic. We're working. Why would you say
It
something?
doesn't make sense in English, but it makes sense.
There we go. No, it makes sense in English. You say
Like
you're
my
a
dad
dog.
would say, Mister, my dad will tell me when I catch something.
Still, you shouldn't say that.
Yeah, I should have.
We're all the same.
Don't do it.
It's asking you. So let's go to the article. Where's the article? Let's go to school, Gene.
Tomorrow.
Why are you pointing like it's today?
Go to our class.
No.
Yeah, you said.
Then let's go to our week's folder.
You got a cover.
Let's click on that link.
Happy, bro.
Let's click on the second one.
So
So this article right here is what's going to have your answer. So the question's asking you this. You want to find 3 points of the 14 points that are the most important, have the most impact in maintaining freedom. Alright? So say, for example, you choose point 6. So you say, I chose point 6, which is blah, 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 blah. I think it's important. So the potential impact is, I think it's important because the example right here, so this person chose point 14. They list out what it says, and they list why they think it's important. Okay, you're going to do that for 3 individual points.
What?
Oh.
No.
Spider-Man, bro.
Hey guys, listen, I have something to
No.
Hey, why do you have
No.
Spider-Man's web on your face?
No.
Why do you have Spider-Man's web on your face?
Who cares?
Abe and Zora, mind your own business, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mind your own business.
Oh, what? You played Spider senses?
Getting bullied by my own brother?
I'm not sure that.
Never letting you live.
I can't take you. What?
Bullier! He's bullying me.
Exactly. Is that good or bad?
I mean, our back.
You have
My family does it.
to build anywhere on the one nation. One nation can't say, like, if you're say you're if you're sailing really close to the United States you can't sail over here. England is our I want to make sure your mask is on.
Snack just like this. My family does that.
Your family don't do that. I mean, which I just learned that right now 2 minutes ago on Alex. Shot at me, swear my life.
Oh, nobody did the one,
Technically.
God willing.
So technically, okay, the sandwich is usually a meat and a vegetable or something in between two individual slices of bread. A hot dog is a connected piece of bread, which we didn't make it a taco.
That's exactly what I was going to say. 2 buns. They're attached.
But they're attached.
Yeah, but like most of the time they rip.
Good, and then it turns into a sandwich maybe.
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna inscribe it.
So what determines the sandwich? The
Heritage mining. You're also.
I see you.
Fantastic job describing. I'll be right there, Sadie.
Right out of that sandwich.
So describe it. What's that? Me. Motivation.
I'm explaining the one that one I had. It's the only one I've had.
Not eavesdropping, observing you not doing your work.
Who promised I'm gonna go to the front?
She can always help me, or rather she can ask for help. This is where you're going to describe why you all armed versus so why you most weapons and who can have those weapons. Have nations stop competing for the best weapons.
No way!
Of colonial claims. So, they want no. This is a tricky one. At the end of World War I, there's a lot of different places, specifically in the Middle East, that were owned by the Ottoman Empire. And what Wilson wanted was all those places owned by the Ottoman Empire should be their own individual countries. So all those ethnicities should have their own country. So that's where you see Syria, Egypt, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran. They're all getting formed around that time. Yeah, so you say, then you explain like, this helps maintain freedom because, or this is pretty important because. I'll be right there.
How about this will split up? You do the first page.
You know what it means? She's telling me I want you. Yeah, I know. So that I know my reputation better. But I'm not know that I don't get another girl.
Okay, so the Zimmerman note, the Mexico thing, was the last straw. The Lusitania happened pretty close to that time, and the U.S. was already pretty upset. If you would have asked the United States to go to war after that, they probably would have. But that just didn't happen. So it's one of those. It's like one of those things that seals the deal. Like that leads us down the path that we will go to war. World War II, yes. So World War II, we attacked, or we joined World War II because Pearl Harbor fleet sucked. Yeah.
Bro, I want all.
Where are you at?
So no more like backroom deals, no more like secret alliances and stuff like that. Everything has to go.
You thought wrong.
Do you have
Fun fact that you probably won't find so fun. All the borders of the Middle Eastern countries that we know today, they were developed by a man from Michigan who went to my college. His name was Mark Jefferson. He was the U.S. national geographer.
I don't even have a pen.
And he was the one who said, it's a good idea to draw these lines in the Middle East so that these countries will never hate each other.
0.5.
And then it caused a lot of
So did he do a good thing or a bad thing?
I would say he probably did a bad thing. Because he didn't understand the Middle East.
Mr. All the countries in the Middle East, they have one country that they can't stand.
No, it's just.
And that's Iran.
You're gonna help me here?
I wouldn't say it's Iran.
Yes, it is.
That's what I'm trying. 0.5, but Iran.
Watch your
I'm
tone.
the answer by looking at you.
That's a scam.
Yeah, watch your tone.
What's he home?
That's a whole other argument too.
I'm coming to you. No, you're not. Yeah.
Yes, Ola. Zoro, why are we out of our seat?
What was that country that they couldn't stand?
Iran?
Yeah, what do you mean like they couldn't stand?
They don't like Iran at all.
So you're going to choose 3 of them.
But it's because Iran is
Just
like
think about
Huh? Hey, Mr.
What?
Nothing, I'm just saying that Iran supplies most of the stuff.
Bro.
And for armies.
You put it on your skin? It's table cleaner is what it is.
Oh.
What's the orange one going? What are you talking about, bro? No one has to.
How many pixels? I have no idea what that is.
Bro, what?
I think it puts out video in like 480, 720p. I think. It's a very cheap camera. It costs me like $20. It is. Oh, so absolute freedom of the sea means that no one country can control like an ocean or a trade route. So if England wanted to sail really close to the United States, we wouldn't be able to do anything. We can't say these are our waters. We're sitting with the Panama Canal. We own the Panama Canal. We would have to let every country.
What is that?
For the most part, there's an international law of the ocean that countries have to follow.
You can do it this way too. You can do it like that.
But I mean, you still have disputes every now and then.
Yeah, that's because you go so slow.
In this context, though, for the 14 points, he didn't care what side you were on. He just said you should be able to go wherever you want in the ocean. Yeah, it's the world. It's not. No one country owns the Atlantic Ocean.
Mr.
So 1 and 3. 1 is kind of saying like we shouldn't have like secret alliances and deals because that was a huge problem before World War II. Number 3 said remove economic and trade barriers. So he wants countries to be able to merge their markets better. So you know how like today, something that happens in China affects us today in the United States, like at the same time, right? We want to remove as many economic and trade barriers as possible to get countries as kind of like united as possible. So if they're tied economically, and say country A does something bad, country B is not going to respond because if they do, their economy falls over. So he's trying to unite everybody. So we're going to make sure you mess it up. Amira, why are we out of our seat?
Sorry.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
I have like one question.
All right, how's it coming?
Yeah? Yeah? That proves how loud I am.
Yo, come on.
What made you think I was gonna catch that?
Oh, hell no, we're such a
Why did I?
Come on.
Read from your paper.
No. Yeah,
I already got it.
Countries and freedom.
So you shouldn't.
exactly.
You
We
should
got
use your
colors for
phone.
it.
First off. Secondly, I hope you're not copying someone else, because I will take this paper right now. Okay? Everything you need is in the article. All the stuff is subjective, so there's no right or wrong answer. I just want you to use your own answer.
What? We're not in the 1980 show.
I forgot what number
Yeah,
that
but
was.
he
So
said.
see, this is where you explain why it's important. So you kind of did it. So you chose
Hey,
the five, so this.
You are Malik.
What's about Turkish?
No, like two countries competing to get the most dangerous weapons, or to have the most.
It's the most
Yeah, so in the Cold War, you know how we were competing to see who had the most nukes?
Your face is at her.
They were competing to see who had the most atomic bombs. Okay.
Yeah, then why are you looking at me?
In the Cold War, Russia was against the U.S.
Oh shit! Oh my god. Sir, I thought that was
So
a
why are we throwing things?
Yeah, I don't appreciate
Why are we
that.
dropping things?
What?
Why are we packing up to leave?
No, I
We're
didn't.
back
I
now.
need to repeat that.
My backpack was already not right. It was already unpacked.
We shouldn't be getting up and walking around. I don't have them all memorized. I know what they all do.
Yeah.
Like, the only one I know for sure that I have memorized is number 14, League of Nations.
Patience.
Assalamu alaikum.
Number one, open covenants of peace, so no more secret deals.
Bueno,
Everything that you do with other countries is all kind of out in the open.
ما سمعتني I said bueno
See, we shouldn't be on our phone.
Is class over?
You guys understand أبوك هذا مش بيتي.
No, my mom kept
وينه
me on
أبوك؟
30, so she said 30.
هل أمك عارفة your
She
name؟
has 3?
Can't answer
No, my
that.
mom
That's a
can
yes.
say 3, but she just can't say 30.
Bro, why are you looking at me?
Damn.
Can't say hospital.
Tell him, get him.
Notes are due on Friday.
Bro, that is
Peekaboo! Ow, my bone.
We might check them tomorrow.
لحظة والعباس حاط عينك أبغى
That's that good.
Notes.
Here's your paper, by the way.
Oh, I can't do that to you.
Mona, are you finished?
I broke my finger.
Where's your paper?
Why you need
No,
it?
I'm not done with the packet.
It's the one that broke my finger.
All right, so before we leave, we've got a couple minutes up to class. Really fast. Who can tell me something weird about the 14 points? Someone should be able to tell me at least something. Let's raise our hands first. What is one thing we learned about the 14 points? You see, 14 points are made to prevent war. How do they do that? How do they aim to prevent war? Say that. Okay, so I'm trying to make everybody on one team, one side. What about the Treaty of Versailles? This one should be easy because it's a vocab term. It's in the article you guys read, right?
Blame Germany for the war. You already told me that.
Okay, blame Germany for the war.
They ended it.
Ended the war. It allowed other countries to get their territories back. Good. How are the 14 points and the Treaty of Versailles different from each other?
Because they all.
They both want peace, but different ways. All right. So really fast before you guys back up, Ollie had the answer. The 14 points wanted peace between everybody.
This is a war.
I'll just wait. I'll just wait. The 14 points wanted peace between everybody. The Treaty of Versailles only wanted really peace between the winners. Okay, they blamed Germany for everything. The 14 points didn't blame anybody. They just said, hey, let's work together. Alright, if you have one of our computers, make sure you turn it into the cart. If you didn't finish this packet, you might have time tomorrow. But again, Mr. Murray might want to collect it. So I would work on it as soon as possible. Chapter 11 done. Chapter After 11 notes,
Yo,
I
just-
need to check tomorrow. Alright, another question. Why are we lining up by the door? I'll hold you guys here.
Yo, just.
I'll wait until everybody is down.
His wife is right here.
Good job.
I gotta answer this question.
Me too.
You can sit here.
Oh, my finger.
Oh.
Why are you looking at me?
You
guys
guys
The same goes for
I
you.
can't, bro. It's so
Hey, yo!
You guys be respectful.
Bro, Riddle!
When I told the nurse, my
Riddle,
doctor was like, you want ice?
Riddle!
I'll fix this one.
My guy, we're inside the building. You can get your sunglasses. Oh, trust me, no one's trying to do anything. It's not even sunny, my boy.
But I'm just gonna have
We're inside the building. It's sunny outside.
I'm still waiting for everybody to sit down.
Oh, bro, Riddle, sit down. Sit here, sit here. No, we're inside the building. We don't need to put the dress.
Kareem, sit
It's not
down.
mine right there.
Alright, thank you. Guys, again, before I let you go, we should be lining up the door. This is how it should be before you are dismissed. You should always sit down and waiting for the bell. And the bells are ringing pretty late today, so you guys can go ahead.
Bye, Mr. Kubitz.
Have a good day.
Stay safe, good sir.
Yo, Justin, what you think about something going with the game?
Bye, Mr. Kubitz.